So you may be at this stage and you may be thinking to yourself, where do I start? Like, how do I approach this? How do I orient the sheets? All of those different things. Like, what kind of sheets do I use? All of that. And that is very understandable because whenever you have just this blank space, it can be overwhelming. I know some people like to use the original skins as a template. We generally don't do that. There's a few areas that we have used the original skins and we've created templates out of that, specifically like some of these rear curved spots just because of the complexity of it. But for the most part, we do everything brand new. They do it a little bit differently from the factory, oftentimes using more sheets than we end up using, partially because of where they're having the seams land. In general, we try to have seams as hidden as possible. It doesn't always work out, but if you can plan ahead a little bit and try to have your seams maybe behind some cabinetry or something like that, then that can definitely minimize where you and how many seams you have. But in general, whenever we are starting the interior skins, we do the rear lower sections first, and that enables us to get a real clean line whenever we overlap that with our longer sheets. And so we basically work from the bottom up on the whole trailer, and so we'll do these rear corners and then the front corners, do that stuff first, and then we'll start to work our way up, and that enables us to get that real clean line across that. The exception is with the end caps, which we do last, and that overlaps over it just because of the way that it has to secure along the rib to actually be in place. People have asked a lot of times that question, why we do the end caps overlapping this skin, and the main reason is because you can't, you could technically rivet it all along here and then overlap the sheet and rivet those, but I feel like you potentially have gaps from all the rivets that the sheet has to overlap. So we do it that way. So we're going to start by jumping into these rear corners and then the front corners, getting those pieces cut, and we'll show you how we scribe it in and how we get all of that stuff into place and to fit those complex curves that we have going on. For this particular trailer, we are using a matte white painted aluminum. A lot of times people want a painted surface. Sometimes they want just the bare aluminum look. Whenever we do a bare aluminum, we use an anodized aluminum. The materials that you are able to get obviously is going to vary depending on your location and a lot of those things. We order through a direct aluminum supplier called Risco, and they are wholesale only, so you have to be a business or have like a tax ID number. So, but there's plenty of other places that carry a lot of the different types of aluminum. Like metal supermarkets is where we used to get stuff from. So as far as the type of aluminum and the thickness, the alloy type is not super critical. Most of the time it's going to be like a 50-52, possibly a 60-61, but obviously the higher quality alloy you go with, the more expensive it's going to be. I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing like an all-clad. I've seen people do that, but it's going to be a lot brighter, and personally, I don't really like the highly reflective interiors. But again, do what you want. But the big thing is that it's going to be 0.032 thickness. You don't want to go thicker than that because then whenever you're trying to do the curves, it's going to be a lot harder to get it to go in, and you're probably going to be more likely to bend or create creases, and that's one of the things you really want to avoid. So then whenever it comes to like ordering your aluminum, cutting it, all of those things, I would suggest probably watching all of this course through, see how we recommend doing it, and then you can actually plan out your trailer and get the majority of your dimensions and have it pre-cut whenever you order the aluminum. We do that with a lot of our sheets, but then whenever we're cutting down a 10-foot sheet, we do have our large shear. I do understand that not everybody has a stomp shear, so you can use like a set of electric shears, or again, you can have it pre-cut from your metal supplier, which is probably the easiest way to go about it. You obviously will pay a little bit more, but it definitely can save you time and give you a much cleaner edge on it, which is the goal. You can also use a track saw, like Festool has a really good track saw. That's what we use as well. So those are all some options, but I would suggest watching everything through and then going back and kind of planning out the aluminum that you're going to need and how you can get it cut.
Airstream renovations can be challenging and complicated. That's why we created the most in-depth Airstream renovation course available. Our courses will provide you the same knowledge and techniques used by the team at Miller Garage to complete over 20 Airstream renovations. See how it's done with step-by-step walkthroughs on real Airstream projects. Take your Airstream renovation to the next level.